Okay, just as a quick review, remember we started talking about a budget, what specifically it was. It's an estimate of future income and expenses, and it's usually over a 1-month period that we do it. And why do we do a budget? Well, it helps us see if we're living within our means. Helps us see if we're not living within our means, what can we do so that we can? It allows us to see if we can invest and how much we can invest, depending on, if we have a surplus every month after all our expenses, then we can look at what do we want to do with that money? Do we want to purchase things? Do we want to invest? So doing a budget definitely has value for those two reasons alone. And then we talked, there's all sorts of you just go on Google and you just type in budget form and you'll get all sorts of different types. And you can find them in Microsoft Excel too, where you can just enter amounts and it does calculations for you. So this is one that I created just from a couple of different sources. And we talked about the main components of a budget, your net income, savings, because you always want to pay yourself first, and your expenses. And then we take your net income and your savings, we take your net income and then we subtract the monthly savings, usually 10%, subtract your monthly expenses. And if it's a positive number, that means we have a surplus, which is a good thing. If it's a negative number, that means we have a deficit, which means that we're spending more than what's coming in. And we need to figure out why that is and what we can do to correct it. So let's do one. So example 1, we've got a couple. So this, you could see this as something that's relevant to you some years down the road. And they've just purchased their first home. Jason's a desktop publisher. He receives a gross salary of $480 a week. Gross means that's how much he gets before any deductions, like employment insurance and Canada Pension Plan and income tax deducted. And if he's part of he's got a health care or dental plan that's deducted. If there's an insurance plan that's deducted. So really, what we care about is what's the net money he's getting. And that's his net salary of $370 a week. So Cami is a pharmacy technician. She receives a gross salary of $882 bi-weekly. That means every second week. After her deductions, her bi-weekly salary is $742. So really, when we look at the income coming in, we want to look at their net. So we want to focus on these ones. That's what's going to go in our budget, how much they're actually getting paid. And then we can see there's a whole list of expenses that come along with owning a house and just living life. Eating, traveling, or transportation, entertainment, things like that. So we can see all of these, and they're all per month. Okay, which that means we don't have to do any calculations to make it per month. We just have to enter these amounts in. These are monthly expenses, but there's also annual expenses and things like car insurance. You can pay car insurance annually. House insurance you can pay annually. Property taxes you can pay annually. Okay? Subscriptions, like if you belong to Amazon Prime or something like that, you're usually paying annually. But you can divide each of these by 12 to figure out, okay, how much am I paying per month? Because remember, we want to do monthly. So we need to figure out, okay, with the money they make, all the expenses they have, monthly expenses and annual expenses, are they operating at a surplus? Or are they operating at a deficit, and how much of a surplus or how much of a deficit? So the first thing we want to do is we're making a budget form for March. Okay. And we'll call Jason the primary income and Cami the secondary income. Doesn't matter which one we call which. So remember, Jason makes $370 net a week. How do I figure that out per month? Multiply it by, but is there always exactly 4 weeks in every month? So we got to be more exact. So we take his net. How would I figure out this? Remember, this is how much he makes a week. How do I figure out how much he makes in a year? Multiply it by, this is how much he makes in a week. So this tells me how much he makes in a year. Then I divide it by 12. That's a more accurate measure than just multiplying it by 4, because there's not 28 weeks or 28 days in every month. Yep. But not every, well, you could do that specifically, yes. That's a possibility. I see what you're saying. Okay. But usually when we want to, like if you're paid weekly, what we want to do is we want to figure out, okay, how much is the person getting per year, and then divide that by 12. So because he's making money, or he's getting money weekly, we times it by 52 to get the year, and then divide by 12 to get the month. So his monthly amount, if we do 370 times 52 divided by 12, is 1603.33. Cami's is a little bit different. She makes a net of 742, but that's every 2 weeks. So how do I convert how much, or how do I figure out how much she makes in a year? Multiply it by 26, because there's 26 2-week periods in a year, and then divide it by 12. And when we do that, we're going to get 1607.67. And when we add those two amounts together, we're going to get their total monthly income combined of $3,211. So that's how much is coming in March. Now we got to take this amount and we got to pay out stuff. The first thing we want to do, and this is something, this is a tricky one, because this is the easiest one to skip, especially if you're losing money and you're in a deficit. You may think, okay, if I stop putting that money in savings, I'll have that extra money per month. Like, so we do 3211 times 10% or 0.1, and we get $321.10. We'll talk about the monthly savings thing in a second. Okay, so that takes care of the income. Now we got to go to all the expenses and figure out where to put them. So I'm going back to the example. I'm just going to go through all the expenses. So first I'm going to go through the monthly expenses. It says the mortgage payment is $580.70. Well, that goes right here. Next one on the list is car payment is $385.50. So I got to go find the expense where it says car payment here under vehicle transportation. $385.50. Cell phone payments are $85 a month. So I've got it under telecommunications, under phone or phones. So $85 a month. That's for both of them. That's what we assume. Hydro payment is $90. Okay. So hydro is $90. Water payment is $80. There's no list here that says, or there's none that say water. So we're going to put it under other in the house, condo, apartment, because it's part of the house. So we're going to put the water payment of $80 here. Cable is $51.20. Well, we've got a spot for cable, TV cable. Internet is $92.50. We've got a spot for internet. You may want to check these off as you put them just to make sure you keep track of everything. Groceries, $370. There is a spot for groceries under food. So groceries are $370. We can put it there. Gas expense, $92. There's a spot for gas under vehicle transportation. So we put $92 here. Personal care expenses, $45. There is a spot for that on the second page under miscellaneous. No, yeah, miscellaneous. So personal care, haircuts, beauty stuff, $45. Entertainment, $146.70. Well, we've got an entertainment section right there, or an entertainment slot. So we can put it there. And they also owe $78.20 on a credit card for the month. And there is a spot for credit cards balance or credit card amount under debt repayment. So that takes care of all the monthly expenses. We still have to do the annual expenses. So the car insurance, the property taxes, the home insurance, and the subscriptions. We've got to take each one of those and divide by 12 to get the monthly. So for the car insurance payment, it's $836.50 a year. But here's car insurance. It's $836.50 for the year. I knew, I was just waiting for it to do that. It's $836.50 for the year, but I only want to know the month, so I divide by 12. And I get $69.71. The property taxes are under home, apartment, condo. So property taxes, it's $2,764.80 for the year. I want to know how much I'm paying for the month, so I divide it by 12. And I get $230.40. The home insurance is $398.20 for the year. I only want to know the month. So $398.20 divided by 12 will tell me the amount that I put into the home insurance section, which works out to $33.18. And often you pay property taxes and home insurance for the month. You can set it. You can set things like that up on your for automatic withdrawal, like I have for my property taxes. They take my yearly taxes divided by 12. That's how much they take out of my account every month. Finally, any subscriptions or memberships. There is a section here under miscellaneous. So if it's 220 for the year, I want to know how much for the month. So I divided by 12, and I'm going to get 1833. So, I mean, sometimes it may be a little bit hard to see, well, where would I put, where would I put this amount? Where in a budget form would I put this amount? Like if it's, what if you have a gym membership? Do you put it under recreation or do you put it under subscriptions? Yeah, but it's still a membership, right? So does it really matter which one you put it in? No. Okay, I mean, like if you say, well, it says gym here, you're going to put it under there, that's fine. Just make sure you don't put it twice. That's all. That's the important thing. And if you're not sure where something goes, like if there's no title for it, put it under other in miscellaneous, because that sort of covers everything else. The ones that I've specifically written down, those are ones that you usually see. But there are some, and notice this would not be a budget if you had kids. This would not be a good budget form if you had kids, because you would need a section like children expenses. You could put it all, you could total it all and put it under other if you wanted to, but you probably want to break down your child expenses. So the one that I created here is really for like couple with no kids or single people. Okay. Okay, so we've done everything. So now what we've got to do is we've got to figure out the total monthly expenses. So we've got to total each section. So I've got to total the house, condo, apartment section. So I just simply add these 5 numbers up, and I get, in this case, 1,014.28. In the telecommunications, I add these 3 numbers up, I get 228.70. It does help to break them up into sections, because then you can see, like, okay, this is how much I'm spending on my house stuff. This is how much I'm spending on telecommunications. Any transportation, this is how much I'm spending. So we add these 3 up, and we're going to get 547.21. Add the food section up. Well, there's only one number in there, so it's the same, 370. Add the clothing section up. Did I miss clothing? I did. There was a clothing expense. It was 180. Because usually that's something that you're spending on, or you're spending money on every month. So that total would be 180. Sorry, I missed that one when I went through. That's why I should check them off as I do them. Medical, we had nothing under medical. Okay. Miscellaneous, we add these 3 numbers up, and we're going to get $210.33. And under debt repayment, well, there was only the credit card amount of $78.20. What's that? Oh, shoot. Don't tell me I made a little mistake. 220 divided by 12, 1833. Oh, no. Yeah, it's 210.03. Thank you. Good catch. $210.03. So that's going to change my total monthly expenses. Yeah, it'll be very close. Okay, so we've got all the major sections of expenses. So now to get the total amount, we want to add all these numbers. So we want to add the 1,014, oops, we want to add the 1,014, the 228, the 547, the 370, and then the ones on the next page, the 180, the 180, the 210.03, and the 78.20, and that's going to give us this. Maybe no, I'll bet you I'm going to be still off by 30 cents. I thought I saw that. 03 plus 180 plus 1,014.28 plus 228.70 plus 547.21, 370, 26.20. You know what? I think I just wrote that accidentally because I still got the same total. Yeah, I think that was just a typo by me when I wrote it out because I got 26.28.42. So those are the three major amounts. Okay, the total monthly income, how much you're putting towards savings, your total monthly expenses. So we take those three amounts. So the total monthly income from the previous page, we had at 3211. The monthly savings that we're putting away, because we're paying ourselves first, is 321.10. The total monthly expenses that we just finished going through and calculating is 2628.42. So we add the monthly savings and the monthly expenses, and we get 2949.52. So the money coming in and for the month is 3211. All the money going out for expenses and putting into savings is 2949.52. So to figure out my surplus or deficit, I subtract income by the total money I'm putting out, and I get positive 261.48. Which means because it's a positive number, I'm working at a surplus. If it was negative, I'm working at a deficit. Obviously, we want the number to be positive. Otherwise, we're not living within our means or there's something else going on. Now, sometimes, I mean, it may be, I'll finish the rest of this tomorrow, but just to talk about this, it can change every month. Like if you did a budget for every month, you may have a surplus one month and a deficit the next month, because maybe there's an expense for that month that you don't pay for every other month, such as a credit card repayment. You know, maybe you put something on your credit card. And remember, if you put something on your credit card, don't put it in two spots on the budget. So like if you buy groceries with your credit card, either put the amount under groceries or put the amount under credit card, not both, because then you're not going to have an accurate picture of your surplus or deficit. So we'll talk more about this tomorrow. We'll leave it at that because we're 20 after. That's good.